That was Reshona Landfair on tape with R. Kelly. And at the time, she was underage. That's been my whole thing throughout this entire trial. It is what it is. They don't care about none of them other bitches. They never did. It wasn't about them. It wasn't about Lisa Van Allen, Charles Freeman, Tracy, Pauline, Neil, Brittany. None of them. It was about Reshona Landfair. That was Reshona Landfair on tape with R. Kelly. And at the time, she was underage. Not sure what's so hard to comprehend about that. That was my whole thing. It wasn't the obstruction of justice. He got away with it. He paid people for their silence. He paid people to go get their tapes back. All of that's true. They never cared about how he got away with it. They knew that he wasn't going to get away this time. That was their thing. We got him again. We not going to let him go this time. And it is what it is. Y'all sitting all online reading them transcripts. Man, none of that mattered. At all. It was a waste of time. Their whole thing was, we noticed him on this tape with this little girl. There was no getting around that. He know that was him. That little girl know that was her and R. Kelly back in 2008. She lied for R. Kelly. Her parents lied. They're trash. That was Reshona Landfair on tape with R. Kelly. And at the time, she was underage. Not sure what's so hard for the Beehive to comprehend about that. Y'all don't want to believe it. You don't want to believe it. But that's him on tape with that little girl. And at the time, she was underage. That was my whole thing. I didn't care about the obstruction of justice, how he got away with it. Because I knew they wasn't going to let him go again. That's why I kept saying what I was saying. They was going to let Darrell McDavid and Milton Brown go. They didn't want them. They wanted R. Kelly. It wasn't about obstruction. They was well aware that he was paying people for their silence. They knew that. We knew that. They word played it. Obstruction of justice. But it was really about CP. That tape with Reshona Landfair and R. Kelly. That was Reshona Landfair on tape with R. Kelly. And at the time, she was underage. They didn't want Darrell McDavid or Milton Brown. They used them for collateral. They knew that he had been acquitted on CP back in 2008. So they had to work around that. Not sure what's so hard for you people to understand about that. They knew that if they just charged him with CP all over again, it would be double jeopardy. It is double jeopardy, but they word played it. That's why they charged him federal. He got away once. They wasn't going to let him go again. And then his arrogance. He was still out here messing around with teenage girls. Got grown-ass people sitting on the internet talking about he was set up. It was all a setup. Barry Hankerson set him up. Sparkle set him up. It doesn't matter who set him up. This nigga out here violating children. He need to be set up. He need to be in jail. Doesn't matter who did it or why. It needed to be done. R. Kelly, big feet ass, thought he was above the law. Them white folks had to show him, no, you still just another nigga. And it is what it is. This nigga out here violating children. I don't care nothing about the trifling ass parents. R. Kelly trifling too. Them little girls were some fast ass little girls. Yes. It wasn't forcible violation. He didn't force them. They laid there and they trifling too. Call a spade a spade. It is what it is. Those little girls were fast and trifling. That man was old enough to be their daddy. That's nasty. It is what it is. It's about money, power, and control. Them folks took their control back from R. Kelly because R. Kelly thought he had all the control. They took his money because he didn't know what to do with it. He had so much money, he didn't know what to do with it. He played with all that money all them years. And now he ain't got shit to show for it. He ain't got a pot or a window. He's literally in jail. And gonna be there about 10 more years. It is what it is. R. Kelly is ignorant. And to make matters even worse, he kept doing it. The Beehive are the worst people on the planet. And I'm going to tell you something about them people. They are pervs too. Yes. You get to digging in some of their background. Some of them fucked up too. That's why they condone this type of behavior. What it is. They didn't want Darrell McDavid or Milton Brown. No. They wanted R. Kelly. And the person who really obstructed justice was Ed Gein back in 2008. His whole entire thing was how to get away with violating a kid. That was his whole case with R. Kelly. And he got away. That white man got that boy off. The Beehive so ignorant, they don't know a good attorney when they see one. Read the transcript. Read the transcript. That is so funny to me. That is funny to me. Them folks were literally online reading all that, and none of that did not matter. All Jennifer Bunjean was doing was arguing back and forth with everybody that got on that stand. R. Kelly didn't even have nobody to speak on his behalf. That's just how bad it was. We had a good day. We had a good day. Stop it. Ain't no way R. Kelly was going to beat Chicago again. People sitting on the internet telling me he was set up. He was set up right there in front of the camera. He set the camera up. He sat right in front of the camera, played with himself to make sure he had the right angle because he was getting prepared to violate that little girl. What had happened was, that was Reshona Landfair on tape with R. Kelly. And at the time, she was underage. But I'm going to let Pinocchio nose looking lad with the dent right there at the top tell y'all about this
afternoon. The federal jury returned guilty verdicts on 6 counts against Robert Kelly. 3 of those guilty verdicts were for producing child pornography, and 3 of those verdicts were guilty for Robert Kelly enticing minors to engage in sexual activity. Robert Kelly and his 2 co-defendants were acquitted of other counts they were charged with in the indictment. The evidence at the trial in this case revealed reprehensible conduct. that Mr. Kelly engaged in sex acts with multiple girls under the age of 18, and he recorded some of those sex acts on video. We are pleased with the fact that Robert Kelly is finally being held accountable for that reprehensible conduct. We are particularly pleased that Robert Kelly is finally being held responsible for the abuse of his 14-year-old goddaughter. As you may recall, that was the subject of the 2008 trial in Cook County. And the jury in this case found him guilty of that very same conduct. For these counts on which Robert Kelly has been convicted, he's facing very severe prison sentences. On the first 3 counts in the indictment, each of the child pornography production counts, he's facing a sentence of 10 to 20 years imprisonment. On each of the enticement counts, he's facing a sentence of 0 to 10 years imprisonment. So overall, Robert Kelly is facing a prison sentence of 10 to 90 years imprisonment based upon the jury's finding in this case. And for that, we're very thankful. Obviously, we're disappointed in the not guilty verdicts on the remaining counts. I would like to thank really truly the outstanding work of many, many people who has been able to bring Robert Kelly to justice here today. First, I'd like to thank the prosecutors in this case and my team here at the U.S. Attorney's Office, outstanding people who've worked tirelessly for years in order to put this case together and to bring Robert Kelly to justice, the 4 prosecutors who are behind me and other staff members in my office. Second, the law enforcement officers who for years worked tirelessly to work with the victims in these cases and to bring the evidence that we were able to show to the jury in this case. Most notably, the Department of Homeland Security Investigations, the IRS Criminal Investigation Division, who were the leads in this case in particular on the federal side. And we'd also like to thank the outstanding work of the Chicago Police Department and the Cook County State's Attorney's Office for what they've done over the years on this as well. But really, most importantly, and I think the main reason why I'm down here right now, is I want to thank the victims. I want to thank the survivors, and they are survivors, the people who survived Robert Kelly and his years of abuse at his hands. Their courage to come into this courtroom and to stand before the jury and to reveal the unspeakable things that that man did to them and then videotape them. It's remarkable. Their courage in coming forward, their perseverance and their resolve to be here years later to tell their story is truly remarkable. And these verdicts, these guilty verdicts in this case, it vindicates them. And not only vindicates them, it vindicates the other individuals who came forward in this case to tell their stories as well. Right. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Do you hope this sends a broader message to
I do. It's hard. I mean, we can see this case in particular, right? I mean, we had a case where there was reprehensible conduct that was presented to the jury, video evidence that was presented to the jury, and what I hope this shows the victims, and again, now the survivors in cases like this, is that it's important to come forward and that you have law enforcement, whether state or whether federal law enforcement, we will be there for them in order to hold accountable those people who did those unspeakable things to them. Yeah, well, I mean, of course, the reason why we charged McDavid and Brown is because we believed that we can prove beyond a reasonable doubt that they committed crimes in this case. We believe those are righteous charges then. We believe those are righteous charges now. We respect the jury's verdict in this case, as we do and as we must. The allegations in the indictment were that they obstructed justice, and we believe that's in fact what happened. Again, the jury found otherwise in this case, but they were righteous defendants in our mind, and that's why we brought the case.
So one of the victims in the indictment did not testify, and that count was acquitted on. Can you speak to why he didn't testify and if he did, would that
I don't know if that would change jurors' minds or not. But what I will say, because I have heard one of the comments about that, her not testifying. Let's think about what the conduct was here again. Okay, this was that individual, Brittany, engaged in a threesome. Right, Brittany, who was a minor, engaged in a threesome with another person, and the third person in that threesome was Robert Kelly. And one of those people got on the stand and told about the horrific conduct that occurred in that case, right? That was absolutely a righteous charge to bring, a just charge to bring, and we would bring that again tomorrow.
Was it just that it was so difficult that she couldn't testify?
I'm not going to get into that as to why she wasn't here. I understand why you're asking, but don't feel it's appropriate for me to talk about that. Thank you. Yes, that's a great question, Jason. So the question is can we ask that the sentence here be consecutive to the one in New York? And the answer is yes. So the judge will have discretion, as I understand it, that the sentence in this case, which will be 10 to 90 years, can either be concurrent or consecutive. But I will tell you, when we have cases like this, when we have instances where defendants are convicted of committing horrific acts against other individuals, and it's separate and apart from other horrific acts that he committed against other individuals, we're asking for that stuff to be consecutive, and I expect that we will do so here. We'll speak more formally in our sentencing papers when they come out, but to be very direct, yes, this can be a consecutive sentence, and I expect that's what we're going to ask for. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
That boy spoke on Brittany with a whole lot of attitude. R. Kelly's attorney, ma'am, tone it down. That was very unprofessional, disrespectful, and racist what you said in an open courtroom. You call them people cockroaches. Very disrespectful. Coming from a white woman. Very racist. Coming from a white woman who happens to be an attorney. I'm still trying to process the fact that she said that in open court as if it was okay. Anyway, not only that, after the verdict, she made a statement to the media. He was only convicted of 6 out of 13. Ma'am, he was convicted. That's the only thing that matters. He was convicted on the main focus, which was that was him on tape with Reshona Landfair. And at the time, she was underage. It's the only thing that matters. And not only that, ma'am, she wasn't just focused on R. Kelly's case. She was clout chasing. That's what this was with her. She couldn't even remember the accuser's name. Not only that, she stumbled on his verdict. She had to ask her little colleagues, her little assistant, did I get that right? That lady wasn't focused on R. Kelly. She doesn't have R. Kelly's best interest at heart. I've been saying this for 3 years. R. Kelly had nobody around him that had his best interest at heart. R. Kelly would have did better off taking the plea deal that he was offered in the beginning. He refused it. And look at him now.
And something that I have been fighting for and was fighting for from the beginning is that if this jury concluded that he was guilty on the first 3 counts, would they care enough to consider the evidence on the rest? And they demonstrated that they did. And they did their job. They looked at each count separately, and they obviously concluded, as I concluded long ago, as this case was overcharged, the government wanted to, as I said during my closing arguments, be greedy. And they charged counts they couldn't win and they shouldn't have. And now, and not just, as to Mr. Kelly, but obviously the co-defendants. So I wouldn't imagine they're celebrating right now, and they shouldn't be. They should go back and figure out, whether their approach to this case was the right one. So this, again, obviously, it's not, we're not celebrating a win entirely, but we are happy that the jury really did look at each count. And as I said in my closing arguments, each count counts. They did their job, and we ended up with 7 not guilty counts in a 13 count, right? Seven?
Yeah, yes,
7 not
7
guilty
and a 13.
counts in a 13 count indictment. So.
What was Mr. Kelly's reaction when he heard the news?
Listen, Mr. Kelly is used to bad news. He has a 30-year sentence, which is egregious and excessive in my view, out of New York in a case that never should have been charged the way it was charged. So, he's still got many fights to fight. But what he did say is that he had a sense of relief that this particular case was not in the future, it was in the past now. And he had a sense of relief, and that probably would have been whatever way it came out, but I think he is relieved to have this behind him. Yeah, yes, of course. We have some issues that we believe are appealable issues, meritorious appealable issues. I don't know that I'm ready to talk about all of them, but there's a couple that come to mind. So.
Do you expect the county to go forward with their case?
I can't speak to what they will do there, but they got their guilty. They got it. They got the guilty verdicts on the first 3 counts of this indictment, which is the child pornography counts. So I'm not exactly sure what they'd want to go forward on, but we'll find out. We'll find out. We'll take them. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Was the credibility of the witnesses bad?
Well, obviously, incredibly. So the jury did not believe Chuck Freeman. The jury did not believe Lisa Allen. The jury did not, did I say that? Lisa Van Allen, right. The jury did not believe Tracy. The jury did not accept that you could charge an indictment and not even bring a witness in, that being Brittany, which was really offensive in my view. You're going to charge someone with serious offenses that carry serious time, and you don't even think you have to bring that witness in to tell what happened. So those are all, to me, good signs, but credibility was everything.
David and Brown were charged. Get them to roll over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's how the government rolls. That's how they roll. They don't even believe in their own evidence, so they need to put pressure on other people to try to get them to flip. That's exactly what happened, and I'm glad they got it, that didn't work out for them.
Was R. Kelly prosecuted on television in this case? Surviving R. Kelly and documentary?
Well, yes, R. Kelly has been prosecuted in the media since 2000. Since really Surviving R. Kelly, it's been a nonstop proposition. And Surviving R. Kelly is really the reason there were these federal prosecutions, where the federal governments have really, and I don't know that people understand how creative and how aggressive the charging has been to get around statutes of limitations here, and that was all driven by Surviving R. Kelly. So I don't know. I guess the power of the media is very strong. The problem is that, Surviving R. Kelly, as you all realize, probably if you've ever seen it, is that the stars of Surviving R. Kelly, one of them, Lisa Van Allen, was found not credible once you brought her into court. Andrea Kelly, who was, not a witness in this case, but she certainly was mentioned in, I would say, unflattering light throughout this trial. She was one of the big stars of Surviving R. Kelly. So, it should go to show you these docuseries, it's not the same as a court of law in the adversarial process.
And you had mentioned that your client was injured.
Yeah,
More detail about that?
Yeah, he had even before he left the MDC in Brooklyn, he had injured his leg, and I don't know exactly how. As you may have noticed, he's kind of been limping in and out of the courtroom here and there. And it hasn't really gotten better, so we're hoping that he doesn't have to make the long trip back to New York for the restitution hearing, which is going to be next.
You mentioned that he said he feels relief that the
Yeah.
case is behind him.
Yeah.
Did he mention to you any remorse regarding the counts and
So-
his conviction?
So listen, I'm not going to talk about my, those types of conversations I have with my client. You can come to sentencing and judge for yourself, because I'm sure he will. Well, I'm not sure, but he may have something to say there. I will say this about my client, and I think it's often overlooked. And I begged the jury to remember that he's a human being, and I think they did. This is a man who had a very, very difficult childhood and had incredible trauma that was never resolved because he became a superstar very young, and there were not people surrounding him that wanted to get him the help to treat the trauma that he had. Okay, and so I think we can't lose sight of that going into a sentencing hearing. It was something I emphasized in New York. So I think there's going to be a sentencing hearing here, obviously, and there'll be more to say about those things.
Can you? I'm very confused. I'd asked the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they can't tell me these counts. They run consecutively. They're like each 10-year minimum.
You talking about the
2 and 3?
1, 2, 3? Well, our position is no.
Right.
I'm sure the government will have an argument.
So there is. It's like.
I have not. I'm not. I don't know if it's discretionary. I haven't done the research entirely into whether or not it's certainly not mandatory. Okay. Yeah, it's certainly not mandatory. At best, it's discretionary, and we would be arguing that they should not be stacked. Of course, we are talking about the same victim, right? Jane. In fact, one of the inducement counts was also Jane. So, you're really talking about this one person who everyone, heard in court. And I think that will play a role in how this all shakes out in sentencing.
When is the sentencing?
Well, it hasn't been set yet. I don't think.
And here's another fun fact for the P-Hive, a.k.a. so-called supporters, a.k.a. fanatics, a.k.a. wannabe fans, you people. For me, it has always been about Reshona Landfair, Aaliyah, and Tiffany Hawkins. I've been very vocal about this on my channel since day one. If you all were real fans, fanatics, the P-Hive, supporters, whatever you want to call yourselves, if you're that, how come you don't know that Aaliyah and Tiffany Hawkins was also mentioned in his 2008 trial? That's a fun fact.
Decided to wait 20 years to bring charges against somebody that had no business being charged with a crime. What this verdict proves is that 12 people acknowledge that it was always true. The work done by Daryl McDavid, Robert Kelly's lawyers, Edward Jensen, and Jerry Bargolis was great work. They did a great job. They did the right thing. And this jury has exonerated Daryl McDavid and exonerated those men right along with him. And we are grateful to these jurors for being willing to listen to the evidence. We are grateful for these jurors to be able to see that when a lie is told on the witness stand, it will not be accepted.
The jury did not believe Chuck Freeman. The jury did not believe Lisa Allen. The jury did not, did I say that? Lisa Van Allen, right. The jury did not believe Tracy. The jury did not accept that you could charge an indictment and not even bring a witness in, that being Brittany, which was really offensive in my view. You're going to charge someone with serious offenses that carry serious time, and you don't even think you have to bring that witness in to tell what happened. So those are all, to me, good signs. Credibility was everything.
David Brown were charged, get them roll over.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's how the government rolls. That's how they roll.
Got him! Got him!